Over the early summer of 2023, I found myself having to mark 1/3 words of undergrad and master's work for my day job. As a result, retail therapy set in pretty hard. Now, normal people would buy new clothes, new shoes, or maybe book a holiday. I did not, because at the same time, I realised for the first time that there was an ethical way to obtain birdwing butterfly specimens from conservation farms set up in the nations they are native to. You can probably now guess exactly in which direction this retail therapy went. It was a little bit expensive, but a lot of fun. Moving backwards from my emotional and expensive summer of 2023, what actually is a birdwing butterfly? Bernard de Brera, who wrote the seminal book on them in the 70s, more on that later, describes them as, without doubt, the largest and most awe-inspiring insects known to man. There are 3 genera, Ornithoptera, which is Greek for bird wing, Troides, and Trogonoptera, include 36 species, although as ever that precise number is disputed, and they range from the north of India to the Solomon Islands. Part of my passion for them is no doubt that I spent my childhood in the Solomon Islands, and my dad saw what I think was Ornithoptera victoriae in the wild in about 1982. Anyway, the 36 species range in size from the small for a birdwing anyway, 10 centimetre wingspan of a male southern-tailed birdwing, to the famous and gigantic female of the Queen Alexandra, which can reach 28 centimetres, although it's usually more like 20 or 25. But it's not just the size of these species that turns the eye. The colour patterns are astonishing, with structural colour providing iridescence in many species of male and more subtle colouring in the larger females, although the female of Wallace's golden birdwing is truly stunning. So is the female of Rippon's birdwing, seen here. Personally, I think that the males of the Queen Alexandra and of Wallace's golden birdwing may be the most beautiful animals on earth. Rippon first tried to catalogue the whole group in the years 1898 to 1906. He gave his name to Troides hippolytus, Rippon's birdwing, but this was impossible because some species had yet to be discovered. The second work devoted to them is Zernia's of 1943, but that focuses on their biogeography with respect to the local geology in particular, rather than on the animals as fauna. I was given a second-hand copy of de Brera's classic text, The Birdwing Butterflies of the World, from 1976, for my 18th birthday. I always was a strange kid, and have treasured it ever since. It seems to have been updated in the early 2000s, but I only have a much-loved and now quite valuable copy of the first edition. There is a copy of the new edition available online, but the warning says something like, many of the pages are stuck together, so I may be avoiding that one. As early as 1976, de Brera comments on the damage done to the populations by unscrupulous collectors, and of the hope that captive breeding may bring. Organisations like the Swallowtail and Birdwing Butterfly Trust are doing a wonderful job, especially with the endangered, CITES 1 listed, world famous and giant Queen Alexandra's birdwing, a specimen in which trade is rightly banned. Having said that, relatively recently, Australia argued that very careful trade in captive bred specimens of this species may actually aid in their conservation in the way it has done for many of the less rare species. This remains controversial, and that proposal was voted down in a relatively recent CITES meeting. I really will stop going on and on about Queen Alexandra's birdwing at some point, I promise. I was taking Valmiki, an MA student of mine, to the insect room behind the scenes at Manchester Museum in April 2023, and, after we'd done what we came for, British dragonflies, the wonderful curator, Diana, asked if there was anything else we wanted to see. With my geeky knowledge of the birdwings, and especially of the museums that hold Queen Alexandra's specimens, many even huge collections don't, for obvious reasons, there was only one thing to ask, and Valmiki and I were gifted an incredible half hour photographing priceless trays of 115-year-old and still in perfect condition specimens of the Queen Alexandra, the Queen Victoria and Wallace's golden birdwing, specimens of amazing history and beauty. This video is probably as long as it should be for now, but the second birdwing video on this channel will be a set of stills of the collection I've amassed in recent months. They don't have the history of the Manchester specimens, but they are all from conservation farms that release a fair amount of their stock into the wild to prop up local populations. So thank you for watching this video, and the second one should be online fairly soon.